Hey guys, JC Smith here. Well, if you can see, I've got the rear end of the 550 here up in the air with the grade all, and I do that because it makes this much lower here. I've got problems with my back, so laying over this it's kind of problematic for me. Caused me a lot of grief. So anyways, I lift it up, make it a little easier, then I can stand on a stool and I can reach this stuff. Now let me get to why it's like this. I got the fuel injectors changed out. They were spraying good. Changed out the fuel pump. Man, it fired right up. Had good oil pressure. It ran good, sounded good. And as it was coming down in the idle, found its sweet spot to idle. It was sounding good, and all at once it kind of hiccuped, and I heard a rattle, kind of a clatter like an upper valve train. It went away, and it idled smooth, and then I had an engine miss. Well, I started looking into it, and I heard that clatter, and it made me worry. So first thing I did was take the valve covers off to make sure everything was in place, and make sure I didn't get one of them cam followers wasn't seated right on the lash adjuster or the valve, and I was a little worried, so I pulled the timing cover back off so I could recheck my timing, because I thought, boy, if it jumped time, I thought, several things could have happened. It could have been one of the cam followers that I didn't have seated properly. Maybe the timing chain tensioner wasn't holding tension and it jumped time, or maybe one of the guides broke, or maybe I didn't have the chain seated. I mean, all these thoughts that go through your head, right? So I took it all apart, and now we're going through the checks. So first thing I did was we're checking timing marks, because that's my biggest fear. Everything else is kind of like a small repair, but if it jumped time, if I didn't have it set correctly, or for whatever reason it jumped time on its own, then that could be a big repair, because that could potentially bend valves. And I'm not sure this is an interference motor, as far as the timing chain, if the valve's open enough that they could hit the pistons, without being bent, that is, or without losing a keeper. I mean, like in their normal travel, if the timing was off and it was open when it's supposed to be closed and the piston's at top dead center, could it bend the valve? Which I don't know if this is or isn't an interference motor. So anyhow, I pulled this apart, and the easiest way to check the timing on one of these is to use your timing marks. That is to use the tool that Ford originally designed, and that's this. You can see there's a keyway in this that goes on here, and there's a dowel pin right here for the timing cover, and it slides on. See, I'm bottomed out here, and I'm on my dowel pin. Now what that does, sorry about my hand right there, what that does is it puts the crankshaft in the correct position. And I can't tell if I'm getting that for you or not, but if you can see there'll be a black link on the timing chain back here. I don't know if you can see that, but if you see that black link, there's a dot right above it on the crank gear. Okay? Now, that's how you set up your timing marks, by that black mark. There's one on each chain. And then up here on the cam, you have two black marks, two links. See how they're black colored? Those go on each side of that marker, your timing mark right there. So when I took this apart, I found that I am correct, my timing is correct, my balance shaft is correct. I don't know if it's going to focus on that. Yeah, okay, so it does. So my balance shaft is correct. So as far as that's concerned, we're okay. So now, some reason it made a clatter, and that's where I'm at. I'm trying to find this out before I dismiss it as a fluke. It would be very easy to just let it go and figure out the miss, whether it be electrical or whatever, but in being thorough in the way I like to do things, I mean, this is this is more work than I really needed to do. I believe I could have brought that on top dead center on the damper, on the timing cover, checked these marks, and saw that this was lined up and been done. But I don't want to leave anything to chance, because if this timing chain tensioner wasn't working, or that one wasn't working, or whatever, it's just easier to take the time, look it over, and see what's what. So also what I'm going to do is check to make sure I have my guides on the right sides. I believe I do, but since I'm in here, I'm going to double check everything. You know, sometimes it's the simplest thing. And then I'm going to go through and check every single cam follower and lash adjuster to make sure that the lash adjusters are holding tension. I don't have one that's collapsed, and that they're in the right place and seated. So that being said, I'm going to go look at my manual, and I'll bring you along. I'll just bring you along as we do it. Okay. Well, of course, we're back to save. Alright, so here's my screen, and one thing I'm checking is my, well, if I could find, there it is. So here's what I'm telling you about the timing chain. You have a black one here, and that's basically when you lay the chain flat. These are black, these two are black. Sometimes they're gold, sometimes they're copper colored. Usually, if I remember right from the factory, I want to say they're copper colored, and the aftermarkets I know all the aftermarkets I bought are black, so it's easy to see. Okay, so there's our timing chain guides. I want to make sure I got the right ones in the right place. I don't believe you can mess these up. When I take it apart, I lay it in the orientation they came out. But anyways, so I'm going to double check that. You see how they're offset this way? I don't see how there's any possible way I could have it backwards, but let's double check that. Sometimes it's the devil's in the details here. Yeah, there's no way to mess them up. One on top, one on the bottom. Yeah, that's impossible. Okay, now the next thing is, did you note which timing chain guide goes where by this little bump right here? So let's go check that out. Make sure I got the right one on the right side. Oh, so here they're showing you that tool I just showed you and what it's supposed to do. And let's see. Okay, here you're telling you just what I showed you there. That's the black key. There's the dimple, the timing mark, and there's what we have up here. It's both in place. Okay, so this left-hand timing chain tensioner, that's that one. See that dimple there? I think it even tells you that. Let's see. Yeah. Note the left-hand timing chain tensioner arm has a bump near the dowel for identification. So those are correct. So all that's good so far. Yeah, so all that's the same. Everything's correct there so far. Okay, now it's time for me to get into the lash adjusters and cam followers, and I want to make sure that all of those are seated and have tension, which I can't do holding this phone, so hang on. Alright, I'm going to try and do this with the camera. It might be easier than using my mirror, because then I can review this. Get on this other side of this. Alright, so those all appear. That grit you see on that one right here, that's assembly lube. It just looks weird, it's like a jelly. But so far, I haven't seen anything to give me any reason to question. Boy, it's so hard to get this in there. There just isn't a lot of room. I could see with my mirror, but that was about all. But it looks like everything's in place. So now I'm going to take a screwdriver, and I'll push down on the valves and push down on lash adjusters and make sure that all the lash adjusters at least have some tension on them. Make sure that's not where the clatter came from. I did it twice and that was enough to make me nervous, so let me get a screwdriver and push on them. Alright, this side is much easier to get to. It's not as much crap in the way. Plus it's easier to see because I have the coils out already. Let's see. What I'm looking for too is anyone that has a valve open. I want to make sure that the cam lobe is actually pushing down on it. You know, this is kind of the problem when you buy something that you didn't hear run. You know, the original motor, because I use the original intake here, and now that, oops, washer. The motor that was in this had shrapnel go off of the motor, and something that I thought that came through my head at 3 o'clock in the morning, you know, because that's usually when you think of these things, is I never considered that the intake could have had a piece of crap in it, and the original engine took a crap, you know. I shook it to make sure I didn't hear anything, and I blew air through it, you know, just as good measure, normal. I'm just going through and checking all these, make sure they're tight and seeing what a cam lobe is. Anyway, so I shook this and I blew air through it as regular measure of putting it back together, and but I never considered it could have been a piece of something lodged in there. I should not have used that intake in hindsight, but you know, that's how it works. You don't think of these things till you have a problem sometimes. But so looks like all my valve train is correct. All my lash adjusters seem to have good tension on them. Cam followers are all placed where they belong. All the valves look like they're in good shape. So the next thing I'm going to do, just as before I do anything putting it back together, is I'm going to pull out all the spark plugs and I'm going to get a compression on every single cylinder, see where we're at, and then I'm also going to close the valves, put air in the cylinders, so that I can make sure every single cylinder has the ability to seal. Because my thought is, if there was a piece of crap in that intake that worked its way into one of these cylinders, it could be holding the valve open. Now, if it was holding the valve open, it should show itself, you know, around here, with one of these lash adjusters having more slop in them than the others. Theoretically, you would think by having tension on all these and everything looking correct that would tell me that the valves are all closed. But you never know what size it could be. I mean, we could have something that's very, very thin, that's just enough that makes the valve not seat, but would not really show up here as much, because it would only be, you know, just a fraction. So in the way of doing things thorough, that's what we're going to do next. I'm going to pull the plugs out. While it's sitting right here, I'll find out which valves are closed, and I'll put air to those cylinders, and then I'll roll it over till the next ones are closed and go that way. So hang on. Alright, you guys can kind of see my voltmeter here. I know that it's laying sideways, but I'm going to ohm out the coil. Of course, now I move that, you can't see it. There you go. Let me read that. Anyways, I'm going to ohm out the primary side of all these ignition coils. Should be about 2.1, 2.2, something, 2 to 2.2, I think. 2.2. Okay. So I'm going to ohm all these out just to make sure I don't have a simple ignition coil problem. You would think that would set a check engine light. Oh, that was another thing. I'll do the rest of these. I'm not going to do it on camera because that's kind of pointless if you don't know. Inside there, you can see that Those two terminals right there, inside there, that's what you're ohming out. All the passenger side ohmed out okay, so now I'm going to do the driver's side, and since they're still in place, I'm just going to do them right there. Make it a little bit easier. If I can get my probes in here one-handed. 2.1. Yeah, this is not easy. Anyways, you get the gist of it. I'm going to get the rest of these done. I can't do this holding this, and I don't have a place to prop this good, so hold on. Since I got the ohm meter out of here and I want to be thorough, I'm going to unplug all my injectors. I'm going to ohm them out also. All the coils on this side were all within 0.1 of each other, so they're good. Alright, so now we'll get the injectors and see where we're at on that. Alright, I don't know if it'll show up here. 13, 13.9, 14.3, that's our highest one right there. 13.8, 13.7, 13.7. And on the passenger side front, we got 13.5, 13.7, 13.6, 13.9, and 14. So I don't know that any of these are really way out. I mean, this is the highest one, and it's only 0.4 ohms. I mean, that's really not a lot. Oh, if you guys wonder why I have this cardboard here, I do this every time I have to do an engine work. And I fold that down to protect the radiator. If I drop a tool or something, I don't want to put a hole in that radiator. It's not exactly cheap. And I've run a bungee cord around here, so it just holds it from getting in the way. But okay, so it looks like the injectors and the coils are all okay. So far, spark plugs look good. Now I'm going to pull. I was in the process of pulling out these coils and those spark plugs, but since these were already in place, I thought I'd go ahead and ohm them out. So now I'll pull them, I'm going to pull the spark plugs, and see what we got there. Alright. If you guys don't have one of these, for the longest time I just used a piece of 3/8 fuel line, but got that from the Mac dealer. Oh, looky there. See if you can see that. Yeah, that's a lot of fuel. Alright, well, let's just go on down the line and see what's going on. I'm not sure how this engine fires. I would assume what it does is it supplies ignition power to the injector and then controls the ground side. I mean, that's usually how this is done. But I think I'll just go ahead and break all these loose here. Oh, that didn't sound good. Looks like I might be buying a spark plug there. I think I broke that one. Can't tell if that was just hitting the loom. Oh yeah, I just cracked that one. I'll be replacing that one. It wasn't cracked. I actually heard it crack. If it meant anything, it was burning good. That one's burning alright. Yeah, that's a shame. This is the one I just broke. But the reality is, I should have bought the right spark plug socket for that. I'm just using a regular 14mm socket. And it wasn't exactly straight on either, which is never helpful. I think I got more of them, so it shouldn't be a big deal. Most of the time you can crack them loose and then just use this tool to take them out the rest of the way. That one's doing alright. So I have to say that first one we pulled out, I'd say that's the one that's not firing, which makes sense because, well, it's about impossible to feel or hear where it's at, but I don't know why, I just assumed it was on this side. And yeah, that one's doing alright too. So it appears as though number one is the one we're really concerned about. Well, it's not oil, so that's good. It's fuel. I could, this was when I was cranking this for a while, this was the only one that was spraying, and it was spraying a lot, so wouldn't it be something if it was just a fouled spark plug? Huh. But you would think it would have missed from the beginning, but it started up and ran pretty good, but I mean, that's definitely gas fouled. So I'll clean that thing up, but I'm still going to go forward and make sure that everything's what I think it is. I'm going to go ahead and get my compression tester and start making my way around. So hang on, guys, I'm going to get it all set up here. Curious about this tool if you need one. This is made by OTC. It's part number 525219. There's a couple different companies out there that do like a knockoff one. I think I have a knockoff one too, and I think they're identical. I don't remember there being any difference in them at all, but if you need it, this does 4, 6, 5, 4, and 6, 8. The small V8, the mid-size V8, and then the V10. So also, let me show you this while I'm at it. In order to get down into where the spark plugs are, this is an adapter. You see how much threads there is, and then the O-ring. The standard compression isn't enough threads because of the way the head's made. So if you took a 12mm, which this one's what is this one? This is 14mm, but if you took a standard 12mm, there's not enough threads and then the sealing surface to get it started in there. So I bought this adapter. I don't remember who makes this. It's made by Tool Aid, and what it is it's basically for the 5.4 and the V10s, because it has the step here. These are a 12mm. I believe it's 12 by 1.25, which is pretty small, and then this is a 16mm. Well, in 2008, they changed cylinder heads, and they went to that smaller spark plug. Before that, that would have been at least 2005 to 2007, they used the 16mm. So I just bought this because it's a long adapter and it screws right in, and then your standard 12mm screws right in. You go back to just a regular compression test tool. Another nice thing about this, you can see in there, it's open. There's no needle valve in there. Of course, there is one in my compression tester, but what that means is it'll allow me to take the simple hose I've had for years and years with a 14mm, screw it in there, and put air in the cylinders to check the valves. So anyways, this is made by Tool Aid is who it is, and that part number is 34020. Handy little tool. This is only like 15 bucks. The actual compression tester for this was 32 bucks, and I was already ordering some stuff off Tooltopia, and they had this, so I just went in and picked it up. I ordered the correct one for my compression tester kit from Snap-on, but I won't have it for a few days, so I just went and got this. It'd be just an extra to have. Alright, so let's get on this. Okay guys, I don't know where I left off because I thought I was recording and I didn't, but I'm getting ready to do the compression now. Well actually that's not true. I did the driver's side. I went to go set the camera up for the passenger side and realized it's not even recording. Anyhow, so I wrote down what we had. First cylinder was 145, second one was 150, third was 150, fourth was 155, and the last one was 150. So now we're on the passenger side. And I don't know if I've said this already or not, but whenever I do a compression test, I always put the battery on charge, make sure it's up, make sure it's got as much power as it could have. And when I'm doing a compression test, I use this. It's pretty handy. Ford always, well, I'll just show you. That's my remote start, by the way. Alright, so what Ford does is, on this truck, crap, I just kicked my battery charger off. That'll work some days. Anyway, so here's the wire for the starter, and it goes into this connector here. On most of your Ford trucks, you'll have this over here somewhere. On the older ones, it's on this side of the battery back in here, but on these ones, it's in here. So I just unplug it. I put my jumper in here, hook it to the battery. I know that I got good connections because the coil windings in the starter make that light come on. Alright, so that being said, turn back on. This is an automatic battery charger, so every time it comes disconnected, you have to reset it. Alright, let me get this camera. Anyways, I did the other side, and lo and behold, I went to go set the camera up for this side, and went to go hit the stop record, and it wasn't recording anyways. So anyways, you didn't get to see that side, but we'll do this side. Get you set up here. Alright. Get this. If I can get this in here, we can get it. Ready. Alright, I'm going to call that 150. That's fine with me. It's got 150 cranking as slow as that's cranking versus running. More than adequate. Well, that's interesting. Second one back, that's 170. That's weird. That's extremely high compared to the other ones. It's kind of weird. That's the highest one we've had so far. Another 170. If you remember right, this side over here, this exact hole I'm in right now, is the one that the valve hit the piston. So, obviously that cylinder is doing very well. It's another 170. Well, that's bizarre how we got such. Oops, I should have drained that off. My mistake. You don't ever want to do that. It's kind of tough on the gauge. Alright, last one. Got me here. Alright, let's see what we got here for the last one. That's pretty good. That's fairly consistent. See, that makes me want to redo the front one. But, you know, a lot of times if you introduce a liquid, a real thin oil or something like that into a cylinder, If the rings are bad, it'll increase your test reading. Now I haven't done that. I don't see any need to, because we have more than adequate to fire. But I redid that. This whole bank is 100 and that's right at 170. You know what? I'm gonna go back to the driver's side. See what we got over here. It's cranking a little faster. I may not have my battery up. I guess this is kind of a happy accident, because I can get the camera set up good. So now you guys can see what this compression was on this side. Now, if you remember right, this is the hole that had the gas valve plug. Yeah, right. So what we got here. I'm gonna call that 165. I still can't complain, man. That's pretty good for a older bottom end, I guess. You know, the top end's all new, but what did I just say it was? 165. Make sure that what I think is, yeah, 160, 170, yeah, 165. It's cranking a little faster, which is really good. Battery might have been a little low. Okay, let's see what we got here. Yep, we'll call that 165 also. I'm feeling pretty good about we may just have a foul plug. But I gotta tell you, when I heard that noise, it really worried me, and that's what took me down this avenue here. Alright, so we're third one back. Oh, I forgot to write that last one down. These days I'm just gonna have to get some better equipment. It was number 2, we're on number 3. My camera shut off on me right there, so alright, number 3. I'm gonna do that one again. I wasn't real happy with that. Call that one 170. It's pretty good. Can't say as I'm disappointed, but like I said, it was the same before. Was, you know, I heard that noise, and it could have been a lash adjuster that hadn't pumped up yet, but you know, not knowing if this is an interference motor, you get kind of nervous quick. It's 165. So I have to tell you, barring anything weird on this last one, I'll tell you the compression's good. I'll probably go ahead and put air to the cylinders and make sure they seal, but I think that's kind of pointless right now. If it can make 100, averaging 165 plus pounds of compression, then a little lighter. That's 160. Yeah, I would have to tell you, I think being 160, what's my lowest here? Yeah, so my lowest is 160, my highest is 170. So within 5 pounds of each other, that's pretty impressive. This old of a truck. So, or this many miles, I should say. Alright, well, I'm gonna put some air to these cylinders. It's gonna take me a minute. Roll these over, make sure they'll seal up, and we'll go from there. Okay, so I put air to all the cylinders. I've rolled the cam over, you know, with my remote starter. Rolled the starter over so the cam would turn and close each valve independently, and every single one seals, which that's not surprising to me. I think I misspoke earlier and said my lowest is 165 on my compression, but it's not. I have one of them is 160, but I think I had six cylinders at 170, 3 at 165, and 1 at 160. You know, that's pretty close. I'm pretty happy with that, especially for the miles on the lower end of this thing. I think this, I can't remember now. I know it's over 140,000 on the lower end. Anyways, so all that's good. Everything looks to be good. I know this is kind of a fiasco, kind of. Like, I really, based on what I was hearing, like I said, I heard it clatter twice, and I don't mean like 2 different times. It happened at one time. And being all this is just put together, you know, makes you a little leery. It would really suck if that was just a fouled plug, but at the same time, that'd be a good thing. It might have been a lot of extra work, but at least now I'm not questioning, not worrying, and that's kind of where I was. I was very concerned. So all my concerns are obviously not something to be concerned with now. So now I'm going to go ahead and put the valve or the timing cover back in. I'll put all this back together, and then I'm going to run it again with the valve covers off so I can make sure everything's exactly what I think on both sides. And I'll probably just put this on. I won't record it, I mean, unless you guys want to see it. Oh, you do? Oh, okay. Alright, well, hey, alright. Jeez, back off. I'll go ahead and set the camera up. You can watch. You ain't got to get all cranky. It'll be alright. Jeez, all you do is ask. Alright, guys. Hang on. Alright, guys. I got to clean up the surface in here and down here on both sides where the head meets the block. I don't know if you can read that. This is my favorite brake parts cleaner. This stuff is powerful, it's strong, works well, and it's pretty reasonable. This brake cleaner, yeah, you gotta make sure you clean this up good. And I really don't want to put a bunch of brake parts cleaner spraying down on that oil, because I've kept the oil pan pretty much closed up with towels, and I want to run that oil for a few hundred miles, then I'm going to change it. But I got to get all this cleaned up real quick, make sure everything's good and dry. If it's not dry, of course the RTV that I got to put in these cracks isn't going to seal. So you got to make sure you get all the oil residue off. And that is where that comes in. This is made by a company called Johnson's. I think I pay $1.99 a can for this stuff usually. I buy it, well, I usually get 2 cases at a time because I use it a lot. So, alright, let me get the other part cleaned up. Put it on. And once again, I've done my double checks, triple checks, quadruple checks. So I guess it's time to put this down in here. Always a little apprehensive of this, just because we get a little worried, you know, like anything else. Just trying to make sure that you've checked all you can check before you put it in place. And I guess I've kind of done that. It goes in pretty easy. You can see, well, maybe you can't see my arms probably in the way, but I always try and leave these bolts in place so I know where they go. Now, as hot as it is today, I got about 5 minutes probably to get all my bolts in and tight before that silicone sets up. So trying to get them all started real quick. That way everything's where it needs to be. Then I'll take running in my little electric Bosch impact. So, alright, let me get this tightened up and I'll bring it back. Believe it or not, Ford actually has a torque sequence on these, which I'm not really going to follow it too much today. You can just see I'm going to use my little gun. You know, this is why I don't do a lot of video of the work actually being done like this, because it just takes so much longer. So I run all these 13s in first. This gun doesn't make a lot of torque, so don't have to worry too much about hurting stuff. But alright, let me just get rid of the socket. According to Ford, you got to put this damper pulley on. They want you to put a small amount of RTV in that keyway. Of course, I did last time, and obviously I had to take it back out. Just had to clean it up real good. Now, I don't want that all over, so I'm going to push it down in that keyway. Just a light amount. That way it seals the keyway but doesn't go anywhere else. And then I'll put a light amount of oil around here for the seal, or some grease or something. Let's see. I got some oil here. A light amount of oil. A light amount, yeah. That means wipe off the extra. You'd be surprised how hard it is to do this stuff one-handed. Alright. Time to set this old girl in place. Just by pure dumb luck, looks like this is almost on top dead center. Look at that. How in the world's that happen? It's top dead center. That's just pure dumb luck. Alright, let me get that in here. Alright, the damper pulley's back on. It's torqued into place. So now I'm going to do the air conditioner and the power steering pump right here. Put them, they kind of mount onto the timing cover on the side of the block both. I'm going to do that. I'm going to call this the end of this video. It's getting kind of long. So we'll pick up tomorrow. And hopefully it'll be close to the conclusion of this deal. So anyways, that's it, guys. If you like what we're doing, give us these thumbs up. If you haven't already, subscribe. And we'll catch you on the next one.